Yeah. Right.
I hope it's so small.
That was that's great if you did.
I
Really?
wrote my piece about what I read. It's on the NBC Digital Archive. About 1,000 people read it. You can see how much the size of it. Yeah, NBC Digital Archive. I'm just typing my name. Thesis will come up.
Last meeting was great. Bunch of Norwegians went off without a hitch.
It was a little easier to say.
See.
No offense.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Thursday night Lexington City Council meeting. Before I call the meeting to order, I'd like to read a couple of comments regarding public comments, and then I'll call the meeting to order. Public comments are always welcome, and I invite you to sign up if you wish to speak tonight. I'll recognize those signed up during citizens' remarks section of council's agenda. During this agenda item, I ask that the following guidelines be followed. Once recognized to speak, please come forward, stand at the podium, and for the record, state your name and if you are a resident of the city of Lexington. If you want to be contacted after the meeting, please provide your contact information to the clerk. Number 2, please make your comments to the council as a whole and do not engage the audience. Please be brief, state your position, and provide facts. Please provide written statements and/or supporting materials to the clerk for distribution to the council and the city manager. Debate is prohibited. This time is for you to share your thoughts and ideas with your city council. And lastly, please speak clearly as we want to hear what you have to say. Council allots 3 minutes to each speaker, and individuals may not yield their allotted time to another person. And if you represent a group, you're allotted 5 minutes, and you are invited to identify other members of your group who are in attendance. I remind us all that the meetings of the Lexington City Council are formal proceedings and are recorded. And with that, again, welcome. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And the first item on our agenda, if you'll please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Next item is consideration of the agenda. Are there any additions or adjustments to be made to the agenda this evening? I wasn't alerted to any, and hearing none, seeing head shaking, unless there's an objection, we will approve the agenda as presented. And with that, I will move directly into proclamations. The first being proclamation for Arbor Day, and I'll invite up Ray to receive this. That's great. In case anybody's listening out there and Never Land. Ray, welcome. This is a proclamation establishing April 25, 2025 as Arbor Day in Lexington, Virginia. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, sequester carbon, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees planted along streams improve water quality and assist with flood control. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. Now, therefore, as mayor of the city of Lexington, Virginia, I do hereby proclaim Friday, April 25, 2025 as Arbor Day in the city of Lexington. And I urge all citizens to join in Arbor Day activities and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Given under my hand and seal of the city of Lexington, the 17th day of April in the year of our Lord, 2025. Ray, thank you for your work for the city of Lexington, and especially in support of Arbor Day next Friday. And Mike, you can share with folks the plans for Friday.
Okay, so we'll be planting 5 dogwood trees at Oak Grove Cemetery. 2 dogwood trees, 2 elderly dogwood trees passed away, died this past year, and we have 3 that are failing right now. So we're going to go ahead and remove them. We're replacing them with 5 younger of the exact same variety, keeping with the theme of the cemetery in the exact same locations that the 5 are going to be removed. So
Bring your gloves and join us on
Yep.
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock on Friday the 25th. Yep.
Fantastic.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Sure. I'd also like to offer a proclamation. I don't know that anyone's here to receive it, but I'll address it to our vice mayor and her role on threshold, establishing April 2025 as Fair Housing Month in Lexington, Virginia. And whereas the Fair Housing Act, enacted on April 11th, 1968, enshrined into federal law the goal of eliminating racial segregation and ending housing discrimination in the United States. And whereas the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing based on race, color, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, and disability, and commits recipients of federal funding to affirmatively further fair housing in their communities. And whereas the city of Lexington is committed to the mission and intent of Congress to provide fair and equal housing opportunities for all. And whereas our social fabric, the economy, health, and environment are strengthened in diverse, inclusive communities. And whereas more than 50 years after the passage of the Fair Housing Act, discrimination persists and many communities remain segregated. And whereas acts of housing discrimination and barriers to equal housing opportunity are repugnant to a common sense of decency and fairness. Now, therefore, as mayor of Lexington in the state of Virginia, I hereby proclaim the month of April 2025 as Fair Housing Month. In the city of Lexington, as an inclusive community committed to fair housing and to promoting appropriate activities by private and public entities to provide and advocate for equal housing opportunities for all residents and prospective residents of the city of Lexington. Given under my hand and seal of the city of Lexington, the 17th day of April in the year 2025.
Thank you, sir.
Representative on threshold.
Here with Councilman Betts.
Thank you. Outstanding. Ray, Nikki, thanks for joining us. Have a good evening. Couple of us were contacted by Eric Wilson earlier today and wanted to pass along 2 lights for tomorrow, which is part of Virginia 250, but initially is a nationwide initiative to commence the celebration of the 250th birthday of the United States of America. The famous ride of Paul Revere occurred overnight on April 18 and 19, 1775. 2 Lights for Tomorrow originated out of a multi-state collaboration and a common cause to all in Williamsburg, and uses the imagery of that shining light 250 years ago as a uniting call to action today for our fellow citizens, no matter where they are, to commemorate and remind ourselves that our history is about working together for a better tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 18th, and at its heart, a call across the country in private homes, communities, and state houses alike for 2 lights to be displayed to remind us all of the importance to come together to form a more perfect union. So at Eric's encouragement, and I would invite you all to indicate 2 lights in your homes or your business or wherever you may be traveling, and participate in this opportunity and celebration to begin the 250th anniversary of our country. Thank you, Eric.
Can
Yes,
we
sir.
put up 2 lights in City Hall or something? Is that possible?
It is possible. And I think Janie, the city manager, will support that detail.
Just as a note, VMI is doing a small commemoration that would be in Memorial Hall, and it's going to last from the 18th through the 21st. And they would love for the public to drive down Letcher Avenue, and you'll be able to see it in the Memorial Hall windows in those evenings. And so that's something that VMI is doing. But there's a small story on the website, but I just mentioned that.
Terrific. Thank you. Thus begins the celebration of the 250th, the semi-sesquicentennial. Practice that one. Next item on the agenda, consideration of minutes. They were provided via email in your packet. Unless there's an objection, we'll approve those as presented. They are approved. This time I invite anyone who would like to speak to council, opportunity for citizen remarks and comments. Is there anyone who would like to speak to council this evening? Hearing no one, I will close the citizen remarks and comments at 7:10 and jump right into reports, boards and commissions. Blue Ridge Resource Authority, Mr. Smith.
Blue Ridge Resource Authority approved on Monday the tentative tipping fee schedule for FY 26. This includes a new section for brush and a increase in tire fees. And continuing to work on the budget. Should get that done next meeting.
Thank you, sir. Main Street Lexington, Mr. Smith.
Main Street Lexington expects to start the courthouse grounds project after the Memorial Day weekend. Main Street will be reviewing estimates next week and choosing a contractor. The first phase will be moving the Veterans Memorial. Main Street does not expect that the rest of the grounds will be disturbed until that move is complete. And staff continues to apply for funding through several grants. More than 2/3 of the project cost has been secured. One other note, Rock the Bridge annual fundraiser is canceled this year. Just having some challenges with sponsorships. It's just an event that didn't turn out as successful as Main Street would have hoped. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I'll point out Memorial Day, Rich Hastings is leading the annual service and is thrilled that construction will start after Memorial Day, so they're able to hold their annual event there to recognize our veterans. Planning Commission, Ms. Strawn.
Sure. The Planning Commission met last Thursday, April 10th, and we reviewed the housing and land use chapters of the comprehensive plan as part of the 5-year update. And at our next meeting on Thursday, April 24th, the Planning Commission is holding a public hearing on a proposal to amend the zoning ordinance to consider either prohibiting mini warehouse use in all zoning districts or to adopt use and design standards to regulate mini warehouses. So the first proposal is to not allow mini warehouses at all. The second proposal is to add use and design standards for mini warehouses as a conditional use in the C2 district. So the reason we're doing that is for instance, if Planning Commission recommends that we don't allow mini warehouses at all, council still has the ability to allow it and already have amendments, use and design standards already written out, or vice versa. If we recommend that, then there'll be a proposal where if council decides you don't want to have mini warehouses, the language will be there for you to deny it. And then we'll also have a public hearing at our next meeting on a conditional use permit application for the daycare center at Grace Episcopal to increase their hours of operation to 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and increase the number of students to 20. That's all I have, unless there's any questions.
On the mini warehouse issue, have y'all talked about it yet, or is this the first meeting y'all are?
No, we've got the design and use standards all drafted. So we'll have the public hearing, and uh, and then make a recommendation to council. I mean, I think right now, several people I know are leaning towards not allowing it at all. I don't know what the overall sentiment is, but I know that has come up in our discussions, but
That was gonna be my question.
yes, but if either planning commission wants to recommend allowing it or council decides to recommend it, we've put together very good use and design standards to make it a high quality facility. Won't be cheap looking. I mean, really, that's what, that's
Hmm.
what the alternative is. It'd be something that would blend in with our C2 district.
Very
Actually,
good.
that was going to be my question is what district are we?
Yeah, only the C2 is what the use of design standards and by conditional use, which was what Jeremy had recommended as well.
Very good. Any other questions for Leslie and planning? Thank you for bringing that forward. Regional Tourism Board, Mr. Betts.
Yes, sir. Lease negotiations for Lexington Visitor Center continue. One area of current discussion is what improvements made by Rockbridge Regional Tourism could be deducted from future rent. We're discussing whether it is important regarding potential board members, whether it's important for regional tourism board members to live as well as work in the locality they are representing. Currently, there does not appear to be a requirement that Rockbridge Regional Tourism in the Rockbridge Regional Tourism bylaws mandating that someone live in the jurisdiction they are representing. Lexington currently has an open board seat, which is what prompted the discussion. So at the end of my report, I'd welcome feedback if anybody has any thoughts. Right now, you're only required to work in the jurisdiction, not necessarily to live there. Happy to, hear any thoughts council may have. Tourism update at a future city council meeting. Director of Tourism, Cheryl Wagner, will give an update on Rockbridge Regional Tourism at a future city council meeting. End of report.
Did I hear you correctly that Lexington has an open seat on
So-
the Regional
Yes, sir.
Tourism
So
Board?
we have an open seat and one of the things that came up in the discussion is, there may be some people interested that work in the city but may not live in the city.
Sure.
And we had, I think some localities feel that they would want their person to both work and live there,
Right.
which is understandable. And I just wanted to see if there's any feedback from council so that I would know what other members of council's position was before
Gotcha.
if anybody has any thoughts.
And this is not the representative that city council appoints. 'Cause
No,
you-
so we get an additional representative.
Right.
And my understanding is, a lot of times the way we do it is if, the locality wants a representative,
Mhm.
that goes a long way towards getting that representative in there. So,
But somewhat the tourism board recruits people from that locale or
Right.
recruits people to.
and
the
I
board.
guess the question is it sufficient that a person just work in the city? Or would we also like to see them living in the city as well as working in the city?
Gotcha.
If anybody had any thoughts.
Any council members have any immediate feedback? If not,
I think we've been served well by having some of the flexibility, but I also think that we've got plenty of talented, knowledgeable, potential representatives that both work and live that would do a good job. So I mean, good luck to the tourism board. I don't think you can go wrong, but I can see that we have potentially in the city of Lexington an embarrassment of riches of qualified individuals that would be great. Not to say that there aren't others though. So not clear guidance or
Yeah, no,
suggestion, but I speak, I think, on behalf of the public that would say, wow, Lexington, we've got a hotbed of wonderful people that could serve, that live here and work here.
And I guess what we'll be balancing is trying to find an area of need for the board that maybe some expertise in the industry that maybe we don't have on there versus trying to find somebody, we don't have to have somebody that both lives and works in the city, just that works in the city. But I just want to know if there's any strong thoughts either way on
I
that.
think we were served really well for a long time by George Moore, who lived in the city. He was also general manager of the Hampton Inn, Colalto. And so, kind of hit both good requirements, and he was an excellent representative because of those skills, as the GM, just as an
Good
example.
feedback. Thank you.
I think when it comes to recruitment, if you exhaust all possibilities of someone who is a resident as well as works in Lexington. If you exhaust those possibilities, then divert to someone else, but preferably, someone who lives and works who can actually represent us in many facets of being on that board.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Betts. Raro, Mr. Ziegler.
No report.
Threshold, Ms. Alexander.
Thank you. Continuation, which was the last meeting on 3/26. I've talked about the regional housing study and some of the funding sources for housing development that were mentioned in the study could have future availability challenges, but it's something that Threshold would need to keep up with for the public. 46% of people here, based on the study, cannot make ends meet. Thus, the need for affordable housing is even stronger than we thought. We discussed some properties that were already identified as uninhabitable and how to move the needle to make them available again, each having a particular status regarding ownership, taxes, etc., which will require the expertise and guidance from our city attorney. The homeowner helper program will help with a few of those components of housing needs. Perhaps a work session in the summer with council and Threshold will pick up the momentum, as well as the planned housing summit in September at the Virginia Horse Center, sponsored by the Chamber, where we hope to also participate. And all local jurisdictions will be included. To move the needle, the immediate plan is to finalize the homeowner helper program to tailor it to this locality. When we meet next, we will discuss potential barriers that we could face, work on administrative challenges, application process, and eligibility criteria, determine contractors, identify community partners to help, and build a timeline for the rest of the year for implementation by early 2026. The program will be staff-driven with Threshold as the sounding board to identify issues that may arise. Most importantly, we took time to remember and honor the memory of Fred Kirshner, who was a dedicated member of Threshold for as long as I can remember, probably since almost the beginning in 1988, intertwined with his years on City Council and the Planning Commission. We will miss his many years of institutional knowledge and experience, and his wit, most importantly, and his love of Lexington and his deep caring for the most vulnerable among us and their need to be safely and affordably housed. There is an idea or two floating around to honor him in a bigger way, something that I'm sure that he would have a huge but heartwarming chuckle about. Ironically, we had just heard that day about the passing of Mayor Elrod, and we spent a few moments commenting about her contributions to the city and expressing how fleeting our time here really is. Our next meeting is on April 23rd at 4 p.m. And please note that the meeting this time will be on the upper level of the Rah building until our regular meeting location is finalized, which will possibly be at the firehouse.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for Ms. Alexander? For my report this evening, I wanted to bring forward the name of Ben Thurman, who has applied for the Economic Development Authority Board. Ben's an attorney in town. You all saw his application. He would begin serving May 1st of 2025 for a 4-year term that would end April 30th, 2029. George Graves has been serving and has decided not to seek reappointment. But I would ask for your consideration for Ben Thurman.
I'll thank George Graves for his service and make a motion to appoint Ben Thurman to the EDA beginning May 1st, 2025 for a 4-year term until April 30th, 2029.
Second.
Have a motion and dueling seconds. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Betts.
Aye.
Mr. Driscoll.
Aye.
Ms. Strawn. Mr. Ziegler.
Aye.
Ms. Alexander.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And we look forward to Ben's contributions on that board. The second item I have is a thank you to Mr. Galladay at Liburn Downing Middle School, and congratulations to Foster Pickett for being to To Mr. Galladay, thank you for encouraging your students to enter into the If I Were a Mayor VML writing challenge, and to Foster Pickett for being selected as the Region 3 winner. I haven't seen his writing yet to find out what we need to be working on, but look forward to that. But look forward to VML coming to visit and make a presentation recognizing Foster for his good writing. And with that, I will turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll have a short report tonight. First of all, City Hall, city offices are closed tomorrow, as we do annually for a spring holiday. So we will endeavor to figure out how to do the 2 lights, but I also.
If it's late notice, so I understand if it's not.
No, it's no problem, but we also don't have, if you were talking about 300 East Washington, we actually have turned control of the site over to the contractor, and it'd be very difficult. It wouldn't be impossible.
I was thinking about the 539.
And we can do that. We will get that done. It may not be quite as impactful because there's a lot going on that portion of Nelson, but we will get it done. Also wanted to point out that we have marked and reduced speed limit on White Street between Jackson and Jefferson. I think I've communicated to council that's based on resident requests. I view this as a trial. Sometime later in the calendar year, we will be beginning the construction project, water mains, sewer mains, and stormwater infrastructure on White Street. So that street will be under construction in the near future. So I view this as an experiment to see if the residents find this to be beneficial. We did collect data on White Street from before we lowered the speed limit, and we'll be able to collect data after 30 days after the speed limit has been posted, and we'll see if that has any impact on driver behavior. My position is White Street has only an occasional high-speed person. We don't know who they are, but the vast majority of people driving on White Street are driving below the speed limit. But the residents, of course, have a different point of view, and so we're working with them to do this experiment. It is entirely possible after the construction project is completed that the speed limit will return to 25. It's also possible that we'll keep it at 15. We'll base that on what the outcome of this experiment is. I think that's my report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the city manager?
How was the trip to Morris Creek?
I think we all enjoyed it. We all learned something.
Windy.
Yeah. And we're offering a rain check to anyone who wasn't able to make it. Anytime you want to go, we'll make arrangements if that's your desire.
We can share pictures.
Yes. It was a great outing. It is a beautiful place, and very grateful to staff for organizing it. The folks that drove out, I can't remember everybody who was driving, but there were 3 vehicles out there. So very, very grateful for the late night for a couple of city workers. Thank you, sir. City Attorney, Jeremy.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Better than ever.
Oh, good. Short report from me as well. Nick, on the lease, there seems to be a understanding or an agreement in principle that we'll do some type of rent reduction in exchange for improvements to the facility. The Brightspeed's representatives had a good question, and that was they wanted to understand the nature of some of the display and the exhibit upgrades we wanted to do. They want to make sure those are things that are actually going to present value to the building rather than be something that could be easily removed. And so we've tried to present them with some information about those proposed upgrades and upfits. So hopefully that'll be another step towards getting this wrapped up pretty quickly. I did prepare and sent to Mr. Carroll and Ms. Bell some documents for the sprinkler incentive program. They were pretty comprehensive, so it'll take them a little time probably to wade through them. There was a MOU between the EDA and the city that I proposed, as well as documents between the EDA and individual business owners, loan agreement, deed of trust, promissory note, and personal guarantees for the refunding of the loan. Not necessarily all those will be needed, but I wanted to present them with some ideas to work through and think about as trying to decide how they wanted to exactly structure the program. I did draw up an electronic meeting policy. I think at a prior meeting I had mentioned that the city council's electronic meeting policy was a little out of date and needed to bring it up to date. So that hopefully will be, I think Tom said he would try to get that on the May agenda for you. Figured before summer, before maybe some people might miss some meetings and want to zoom in, we'll get that in place. And other than some research projects, I did some research for Tom on some city funding obligations, and he sent me something else to look at today, which I will get back to you, Tom, on in the next couple of days. That's what I've been working on. If you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jeremy. Members of council have any questions for the city attorney? Terrific. Thank you again, Jeremy. New
Yes, sir.
business, Department of Social Services solar payback. I'll call on city manager to address that.
Thank you, Mayor. At the January 30th joint meeting with Buena Vista, Rockbridge County, and City of Lexington Council, we all three governing boards had approved the bids, which included 2 bid alternates. And this is in response to some questions from Board of Supervisors, Leslie Ayers and Dan Lyons. So we had committed to providing a report back. This is that report. The payback for the solar array that has been approved, it's a $340,000 investment, is 18.7 years. Pointing out in this report that includes federal subsidy from the Inflation Reduction Act. If that subsidy were to not be there, the payback period would be longer, closer to 30 years. So I would simply point out that when we asked for information about solar, we were provided 8 reports. So it can vary quite a bit based on your assumptions, what's going to happen to the price of electricity in the next 10, 12, 30 years. And so a lot can depend on what assumptions you make. Payback periods range from 11.9 years, or call it 12 years, to 29.8 years. So at any range, there is a payback. We are generating solar power, and we are therefore not utilizing power from the grid in order to meet the demand on the DSS building. I personally am professionally a proponent of solar on any rooftop that can accommodate it successfully. But I'm happy to answer any questions. I think procedurally, if any one of the governing bodies has a concern about proceeding, we have not committed, we have not ordered solar panels. We can still change course if that is the direction of all of the 3 governing bodies. It'll be interesting to see what happens if there's a disunity as to what we do, but we'll cross that bridge if we come to it.
With the subsidy is from the Inflation Reduction Act, is that a subsidy we would get up front, or is it a subsidy over time? Like how is that something we already have, a subsidy we already have, or like where are we with that?
It is a tax credit that we would get, and it's important to point out because local governments like Lexington do not pay federal taxes. This is unique in the Inflation Reduction Act that we can actually pursue a tax credit even though we do not have a federal tax liability. So this is true for buying an electric vehicle. This is true for solar arrays for government buildings, whatever energy reduction is being done. The local government or state government or a nonprofit can get an actual check from the federal government, which we will get as soon as we apply.
How is the tax credit structured? I mean, is it like over a series of years, or you can just get it up front when you apply for
Get
it?
up front.
Okay.
You get a 40% of the investment check after you've demonstrated that it's made.
Okay.
Am I right that if we were to pay a monthly utility bill, that Lexington as the fiscal agent would add to the amount that we get as fiscal agent? So if the annual utility bill was $20,000, the annual, that we would get $1,000, 5% for paying that bill on behalf of the 3 jurisdictions.
Yes.
The payback calculations, do they assume that we're borrowing the money? It looked like it was cash only. That
It-
does not take that into consideration.
It did not. And so our interest rate is not calculated into this, which will lengthen the payback period. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I think it makes it almost, really is no payback till the life of the panels, once you take into account, is it what, 4% roughly at
Yes.
20 years?
The debt that we're borrowing for the construction is a 25-year bond.
Yeah, so even
At
longer.
3.97%. Solar panels have an expected useful life for purposes of accounting of 25 years. There are solar panels that are much older than that today that are still generating electricity. They just degrade over time. So your math is correct, but I don't know that any of us know what generation these panels will have 15 years from now. There is a guarantee that they will only degrade 1% per year from the manufacturer over the first 25 years, but they will continue to generate electricity beyond.
Okay. I mean, I guess to me, it's fine if we move forward based on the principle, but we should not be expecting any payback because there will not be a payback and there'll be a disposal fee at the end of it. And like you said, there's just a lot of unknowns. So
No pun intended, based on the principle.
yeah, right. But so I think we should just take that into consideration.
Tom, is the pricing and incentives, it's on 6 of 9 of the report, direct pay ITC, the 136,000, is that what is that?
Yes, I'm gonna make sure I'm.
That the
Which page
federal
are you-
subsidy? Solar PV system cost 340, direct pay ITC
That's right.
136.
That is the 40% tax credit. That's right.
Thank you.
Do you get the subsidy when you purchase the solar panels or once they're all installed?
Once they're installed, is my understanding. Yes.
And when is the expected completion date of the project?
It's 14 months from the notice to proceed, which is about to be issued. So it should be summer of next year.
Oh, next year. Okay.
Peak sun time.
Just trying to see if there's enough time that the subsidy won't get eliminated, hopefully, before we
Good luck. Yeah. That one's out of our hands. Any other questions for the city manager on the solar information? Very good. Thank you, Tom. Next item is Main Street and East Nelson Street traffic controller.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just an informational report that lays out the 2 options that we've explored for reducing the probability that a truck will strike the magnet pole traffic controller at right in front of Cornerstone Bank at Main and Nelson. So I put this out for information. I've solicited some input from Main Street merchants. A couple of them have expressed a desire for us to look at other solutions that do not involve losing a parking space. And I promise to do that. I'm not sure what that is, but we are still looking at that. I do know that people are growing weary of our orange jersey barriers. And so there is some urgency to hone in on a solution and figure out what we can do so that those can be returned to the yard at Public Works for future use.
In the parking space, they're worried about losing. It is a handicap only, so it's not used that often. Is it correct?
That is correct. But our intent is to replace, to restripe that entire stretch between the Bank of the James and Purveyors on Main, and the fire hydrant that's right there. So there'll be 5 returned spaces when we restripe one of those. Our intention is to make that an accessible parking space. So what is effectively being lost, through just the shift is a non-accessible parking space.
Okay. Well, that's good, that too. but I wouldn't put off a decision too long based on that. We need to do something. We keep, I think since Thanksgiving, it's been hit 4 times.
Mhm.
I think just for the sake of conversation, I mean, I defer to the professionals, but we've been having for as long as I can remember a short, a 10-minute parking spot outside Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo is a unique business downtown that has their own parking lot and has a drive-through, multiple parking spots underneath and along Sheridan Row. And they've got employee parking also behind the News Gazette. And so I just throw that out there. I mean, I think everyone loves that 10-minute spot. And I totally know why, because you can run into the ATM very quickly and do that. And that's convenient. But the other banks don't have a 10-minute spot to access their ATMs. And so if what we're looking for is a parking spot that a downtown shopper could park in for 2 hours so that they could eat and shop. I just mentioned that. I might get crucified. I'm a customer, full disclosure, of Wells Fargo, but I just point that out. They already have their own multiple parking spaces that they own, control, and have signs on them. And they're the only bank with a 10-minute parking spot.
Alternatively, and similarly to what David is saying, I think there's also 2 other 10-minute parking on Nelson Street, if like like the opposite side of Wells Fargo. So if you are going past Wells Fargo, I think it's either, yeah, it should be Nelson. But there's also 2 more 10-minute parking, so those might also be an option.
So I think my understanding of the 10-minute parking spaces on Main Street is they were there as an accommodation towards the hotel, the Gin Hotel. And I've also had a similar suggestion from another downtown merchant for a 10-minute parking space near the courthouse on Washington. That we reconsider whether that should be a 10-minute space. So I think that's all part of a more comprehensive examination of signage, wayfinding, make sure that we have the right 10-minute spaces, the right number of them where we need them, and that we inventory that again and present any possible changes and receive additional feedback from merchants and other stakeholders over the summer.
I will just point out too, our 10-minute spots also work as handicap parking spots as well. You're allowed to park there multiple hours. I think there's a 4-hour limit or something, but they are meant to also be handicapped. So that is why we have probably a little, maybe more than some people think we should, but it also gets back to that one spot that you're saying you definitely want to keep as a handicap, because there is a 10-minute on Nelson Street, right? Right. That first spot on Nelson. So there's basically 2 right next to each other. So do you need 2 of them right there?
And kudos to Public Works for trying to solve the problem as they've got along. You may not remember, but there was no handicap parking space in front of Bank of the James and that stretch of Main Street. It was all 2-hour parking. And to help poor truck drivers or drivers who are driving poorly and taking out the lamppost, frequently that handicap spot is not utilized. So it gave more room to the drivers. And with this change, it would still provide even more room for them to make that turn. Although I have to say that the idea of moving parking from the south side of Nelson to the north side of Nelson is intriguing. And I don't know what that would don't know what that would look like or how it would function, but seemed like an interesting idea.
I thought it was an interesting idea. I thought it was an interesting idea as well, but I also know that as Councilmember Strawn said, we've had that poll hit many times, and so I think there is some urgency to do something, and that does not seem like the shortest distance between two points is to contemplate that. So that's kind of why I'm disinclined to do that. It's
the idea of the planter over the manhole weighted that would perhaps slow down the truck would be quick response.
Thank you.
Any other observations or?
I just think that having the planter and trying that first is the least disruptive way to determine if that will help solve the problem.
Very good. Thank you for that work and for, I know it's been a lot of banter at Public Works on trying to figure out how to not repair the light pole every 4 to 6 weeks. I'm not aware of any other business to come before us this evening. And if there's no objection, we have no closed session. We will stand adjourned. Have a wonderful holiday weekend, all. Thank you.
Good night.